Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Isaac Hernandez here with Mr. Joseph Snell here. We're here at Casa Ortiz for season 2, episode 1. Joseph, we struggled a lot trying to get on the show, with the whole pandemic, having to do it through Zoom and stuff. It's been a hassle with the internet connections and everything, but we finally got you on here. You're actually our first episode on our first season, so now you're our first episode on the second season. We're here at Casa Ortiz, here at Carolina's studio, Caco. So you guys want to check her out on Instagram, it's carolina.hvillarreal. You can just simply find her on Caco. It's just Caco, type in Caco on Instagram. You'll pretty much find her there. And so with us, we have Mr. Joseph Snell here. Joseph, why don't you just start telling us a little bit about, Zion Bow Ties, what it is, how you started it, the type of creative business that you're in.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Joseph Snell, the CEO of Zion's Bow Ties. I started Zion's Bow Ties in 2014. And the reason why I started making bow ties was originally for myself. My wife, she bought me like 3 plaid bow ties from the store.
Yeah.
I think Ross. She that's the
I
store
think you
she
mentioned
going
that to me,
to.
yeah.
And so I was like, since I already know how to sew, I can make my own bow ties.
Yeah.
My mind was, it's cheaper for me to make bow ties, go buy fabric, than to change my wardrobe to try to accommodate these 3 bow ties.
Yeah.
So I started making the bow ties for myself, and so I was like, I'm gonna make bow ties and start like this level of communication between my son and I, because I believe that every guy wants a son. Now, if you have a daughter, I'm not saying I don't like girls, because I wouldn't be if it wasn't for a girl, my mom, but I was like, I want to recreate the narrative between father and son.
Right, and then you explained that to me in the first episode too. It's just like, it's like the brand is because of the connection you have with your son. You're trying to grow like some type of relationship with him and understand that,
Right.
That, yeah.
And so my understanding was, kids when they're born, I mean, obviously they can't talk. They, saying these babbling words until they understand what to say. But I felt like through fashion, it could, it was a level of communication that when my son didn't know what to communicate to me, he would do what I would do.
Yeah, and that's how they express themselves with like different actions and what you do and stuff like that. I was gonna ask you too, like how important do you think it is for, I guess, like a kid to learn, fashion, when he's young and stuff? I know a lot of people don't really care about, what the fashion industry is or what to wear and stuff like that. But how important do you, because I know your brand is also about being a gentleman and stuff.
Right. Yes.
So how important do you think it is to learn as like young as your son, to learn about the importance of being a gentleman and fashion and stuff?
Well, I think, the first level of being, I guess, I want to say human, but being courteous to other people starts at home.
Yeah.
How to, take care of your, personal hygiene, making sure you clean, you smell good, you look good. It starts at home, because they're not gonna, it's not gonna be taught to kids at school. I mean, when they get to school, they may get talked about.
Yeah.
I'd rather my son and my daughter hear, "Oh, you stink," at home first, than to hear, "Oh, you stink," somewhere else.
And then they're getting bullied and stuff.
And they're like, "I don't want to go to school," But I teach my kids, my son and my 2 daughters, it's best to learn what, your mom and I are telling you now, than to hear it later from someone else.
Right.
And then you're like depressed, like, oh my God, they're talking about me.
Yeah, and then you lose your self-esteem, your confidence and all that. So it's very important also to learn like from a young age, It's a good way to kind of teach it is, like your fashion and how confident you are.
True.
It's a good way to teach it about. I know during the pandemic, we did our episode through Zoom and stuff like that, but you were also going through about your creative business, making bow ties and all that. So how did kind of the pandemic kind of just, impact you? How did you adjust to it? What did you do about it?
So since COVID, we were just making bow ties, lapel pins, pocket squares. We started making, we started ordering like T-shirts, but then we started making face masks. And so the sales for my bow ties went down and sales for masks went up. So now it's like sales for bow ties is up and sales for masks are down.
Yeah.
But it was a transition for me because, I remember doing one mask one time. I took a picture because every time I do a bow tie and I post it on Instagram, you get like the shout out or somebody DM me or say, hey, I want to buy one of those. And I say, hey, go to our website. But my cousin was like, "Hey, can you make me about 10 of those?"
Yeah.
10
So
masks.
in the end, it was good business for you,
Yeah,
right?
yes,
The whole fashion,
yeah,
the
yeah.
face mask stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And so it was a good experience.
Yeah.
You know, even now, I would say anybody who's an entrepreneur, if you are unsettled with change,
Right.
then don't be an entrepreneur.
Right.
You know, if you can't deal with change, sudden change, then don't go that route.
And it was tough for a lot of people too, especially
Yes.
artists. You know, they go into markets and stuff, and they sell their paintings and whatever.
Right.
Not. There was no markets, there was no way, so they had to kind of adjust in a way where everything was a digital presence, and so now you have to jump on a digital media and like
Right.
Instagram, Facebook,
Right.
and whatever, and try to find your clientele through there rather than in person. Where people can actually see your artwork. And sometimes, I'll see it as like, when you go online, it's sometimes like people try to sell you fake stuff, like it's this painting, and then it's like it's a secondhand painting or whatever.
Right.
So it's kind of like, it's also an adjustment for everybody. So I agree with you, like it's an adjustment you need to make. And if you're not wanting to do the adjustment, then I wouldn't say start a creative business or any type of business.
Yeah.
But how important do you think it is? Like what did you learn out of it, from adjusting from the whole COVID situation as an artist yourself?
Well, what I learned is that, like I said before, being an entrepreneur, I knew there's some ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not, Zion's Bow Ties is not my main business,
Right.
but it's a business that it's my baby,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm growing and developing it. So I feel like, anything that's your baby, you don't want to starve it. You don't want to overfeed it. You don't want to underfeed it.
Yeah.
You want to keep a momentum going, keep hope forward,
Yeah.
and show love.
Mhm.
Even when everybody else is not counting on your
Yeah.
baby, you need to count on your baby.
No, yeah, exactly.
And so through all of this, it seemed like it's been 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But it's only been, a year.
Yeah.
Went through, 2020 a year. I would say just keep the hope. Don't allow the small stuff to
Right.
cause the big vision that we have to die.
Right.
Keep it
And
moving.
And kind of like when you first started, like what were some of like the first mistakes you made? Because making bow ties, it's a part of the art. You got to get creative with it. How did you kind of get the ideas of like how to design a bow tie, and like what kind of mistakes or what type of things did you learn from like when you first started making your creative business? Because I feel like a lot of people
Right.
they want to create a business out of their art and stuff, but they don't know how, or they don't know what way to pursue. So how did you learn mistakes you've made? How did you come up with the design process and different types of designs you made?
Okay, so those 3 bow ties that my wife got me,
Mm-hmm.
one of them I tore apart.
You tore it apart?
I tore it apart, because anything that's made has a pattern, the blueprints of
Yeah.
that bow tie. Tore it apart, I traced the pattern,
Mm-hmm.
and then, once I used that pattern, I, kind of went a little extended on my pattern, so I
Right.
made so I made this bow tie. It's a self-tie bow tie. And so most guys probably don't know how to tie their tie.
Yeah.
Some
I
guys
don't
do.
know.
So
Yeah.
I started off making pre-tied, bow ties
Mhm.
until I started making self-tie bow ties. So I took that bow tie part, I created a pattern
Mm-hmm.
and put my own little,
Right.
something to it, and from there I just continued to make more, bow ties. And I'm always creative anyway. It's not my first time because I draw, paint, so I feel like when I started making the bow ties, I feel like people will be more prone to
Yeah.
buy,
Mm-hmm.
that art, because it is wearable art.
Yeah.
And so with the colors, I love colors. As you can see today, I have a stripe, pinstripe, blazer on with a plaid. So when I began, I was like, I cannot be afraid to mix and match patterns, because it's okay.
Yeah. And then as an artist, like how important do you think the design process into it? Like how much time how much time they take into putting into like the bow tie and how to make it and stuff. How important do you think that is? And like how do you go about, like making decisions when it comes to, is this the right design for me, or is this the right design that people want? How do you go between like what you like and what other people would like and not what you like?
Well, that's a good point, because when I first started, I tried to I was like, because my colors, red is my favorite color. And I love all colors, but red is my favorite. So I try not to get patterns that were too much red in it, something that I liked really.
Yeah.
And then if I have a pop-up, if I was invited to a pop-up shop, I would just do a variety of different patterns,
Right.
you know. But if it was a specific order from a customer, then I would tailor to their needs,
Right.
you know, with their whatever they liked, you know, because I want it to be sold. I want people to like my art.
Yeah.
And so there was a time where I had to get over if somebody said, well, no, I don't want that, you know,
Right.
or I went to a pop-up shop, I paid for my space and no sales.
Yeah.
So I had to, you know, just have thick skin and be like, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'm eventually going to sell this
Yeah,
bow tie.
and it's not just bow ties you sell either. You sell shirts, you sell
Yeah.
different apparel and stuff. So like besides like the face masks, like bow ties, like how do you enter as an artist like into that type of market, and like how do you market yourself making these bow ties, making these apparel stuff? Because I feel like a lot of like artists and different like type of people who make designs of shirts, they kind of struggle on where to go as far as like, you know, how to put their work out there and how to sell it, and you know what designs that people would make. Like how do you go about like marketing your bow ties and your t-shirts and, you know, different things like that?
So the first thing on advice that I would give is just be you.
Right.
Be you. Don't try to be anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody's not gonna like your work.
Yeah.
And so if you are you, and so the person that you're trying to sell to may not necessarily be the person who's buying your art.
Right.
They may be buying your art for somebody else who like your work.
Right.
But your work is being sold. You know, so I would say people are gonna criticize. It can be constructive criticism. So you know, you gotta have thick skin. Know who you are first.
Yeah.
Because if artists don't know who they are, then they'll keep changing for the next person.
Right.
So stay you, be consistent. Get out there. If you don't have Instagram or Facebook, or not necessarily paying for a website, but if you have Instagram, Facebook, most of my art and bow ties were being sold by word of mouth in my local church.
Yeah.
So most of my sales came from people that I knew at church.
And that's how it starts first. It starts from like your family and friends, you know, like
Yeah.
that's your first support group, and then from there it's like you said, it's word of mouth. They tell their friends, they tell their families, you know. Yeah. But I also do think it's kind of like important. I want to see what you think about that too. Like how important is it to go from like, you know, kind of just like friends and family and word of mouth to a digital presence, and how that can impact you. Like what do you think about like the big impact of moving on to a digital presence and selling through there?
So if you go into a digital presence, I would say make sure that your work is like, I'm very critical on my work. So if you go into a larger presence than your family, because sometimes your family may not tell you the truth. Yeah. And sometimes your family will tell you.
Your mom will always tell you like, hey, it's beautiful, it's pretty, you know. Yeah.
So they may or may not.
Yeah.
But you will find out, you know, if what you're doing is good. I make sure that the stitching is correct, that the bow ties are not going to fall apart. If it's a shirt that I ordered, that I help or I create the design, I make sure I look at every shirt if I'm ordering from someone. Don't have like any extra. If the screen printing is not right, I make sure it's right, because I don't want my customer to get it and say, hey, you know, something's wrong.
Yeah, they look at the very small details.
I look at it, you know, before I put it out there. And
I guess as an artist, like, what's the most challenging part for you? You know, like when you're making it, like which part is the most challenging for you?
I have so many ideas. Yeah. And so just trying to choose what I would think would be the right idea at the time. Yeah. That's the most challenging. Like even with bow ties, if I'm invited to a pop-up shop, I'm trying to see like, okay, and it's kind of easy, but it is kind of hard. Yeah. So if you figure out what season it is. Yeah. Whether it's coming up Easter, okay, so you got January, February, I guess. Easter in March. So you try to pick out your pastel colors, you know, something that will be appealing, and then not only that sale that you have, you think 2 or 3 months before. So you think summertime. So I'll have like pastel, then I have like a little of summer too, because spring is like in no time, and then you got summer. So I try like go 3 or 4 steps ahead of the market
and get everything done. Like for example, if Halloween's coming up, you already have your Halloween.
And then you have sometimes people shop in July for Christmas. So
it's crazy. Like it's crazy for me. Like I was like, it was barely September I think last year, and I was already seeing Valentine's Day stuff like on the shelves and stuff. I'm like, that's crazy, bro. Yeah. Kind of what I also wanted to ask you, and I asked a lot of artists this too. It's like, how do you know when it's done? Like, how do you know when your design is done? Like, do you want to like, are you like one of those people like want to add more stuff onto it, or like you you think it's maybe like too oversaturated or something? Like, how do you know when like your artwork is done? Like when you have a bow tie, it just comes naturally.
It's just, I mean, I just know. Like I say, dealing with sewing, you want to make sure the stitching is right. You don't want to you want to make sure it doesn't have any frays.
Right.
You know, because I do like a little, you know, if it's a self-tie or pre-tie, I kind of like stretch, you know, the fabric.
Right.
Because if it's not sewed right, then the stitching will, like, you will hear it rip.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I do, and I look over it. And before I present it to the customer, I make sure that I use a lint roller to have any of the little fuzz off. Attention to detail.
And you do different designs too. Like you
yes.
do like besides like those like pattern and stuff, you do
right.
like you paint on them like the characters and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So which one's been like the most kind of more difficult one that like the most difficult bow tie you've done that you know probably had like a better like high price client, you know, a big paying client, something like that. Like what's been one of the most difficult ones you've done that you kind of almost gave up on, but you're glad you kind of did it?
Well, you know, I only did one. I thought I was gonna have more orders, but I didn't. At the time, I did a Kobe Bryant bow tie. I painted that one. I did the Lakers colors, and then I painted the Kobe Bryant, his number on there, jersey number, and so there was this client who bought that one. And that was the only one I did, and he was like, "I want to get more done." You know, still waiting for the order, but I was like, man,
to paint all those.
Like, you know, man. Okay, I can do it, you know.
And is that something like you can screen print on it, or?
Well,
like instead of like painting it over and over.
So it depends on like the bow tie. So if it's a pre-tied bow tie, I would say even if it was self-tied, but I would do like more pre-tied. If I did order it to be screen printed or do embroidery, having embroidery done on it, it would be like on a specific spot, like down here in the corner or something.
Gotcha. Because I know you also signature them, right? Like you also put like Zion bow ties and something like that.
Yes.
So.
Well, I have the labels that I sew on the actual neck piece, you know. But I mean, I enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's adventurous. There's some times where I'm not afraid, but it's like I just want it to be right.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, because it's your
presentation.
baby. Yeah, it's like it's your brand.
Presentation I believe, is everything.
It represents you. So yeah, I agree.
Right.
You know, when it comes to pricing your work too, like a lot of artists, they always look at like, oh, how can I price this painting? Not to say that a lot of people, you know, they sometimes price themselves cheap and whatnot, but like, how do you go about entering a market, especially in the art market, you know, where there's probably already painters or bow tie people? Like, how do you enter the market and, you know, like meet your competitors' pricing and stuff? Okay, so our bow ties. So when I started, I looked at the bow ties in Macy's, Dillard's, Kohl's. Yeah, I think those are three. Cause you know, if you get a bow tie from Ross or there's another store, Marshalls. Those are mostly discounted from the original price. Right. So I was like, okay, so I'm gonna match my price with the prices in Macy's, Dillard's. Right. You know, which their bow ties like $35, maybe $40. Something like that. So if you get like a discount, maybe like $35 or so, or $20 or whatever. So I was like, I'm worthy. Right. You know, so I was like, at a moment, I was charging $15 a bow tie. Because you were kind of testing it, right? Yeah, whether it was kids or adults. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, so the taller bow ties are charged $15. Youth bow ties are $25, and adult bow ties start at $35. Now they start at $35. It could be $36, $37. You know, if it's satin, different type of material. But mostly the bow ties are cotton. Yeah. So if I do like a satin bow tie, then I'll charge like maybe $35, $36, but not too much. Not that, you know, I've seen bow ties that were $100. You know, and I was like, well, I'm trying to be reachable for those people who I wouldn't consider like poor, you know, like I say middle class on up, because if you're a guy that's a millionaire, the value that I have on my bow ties is not really money value. And you gotta understand, like, if you want to be a fashionable person too, like, you gotta understand that it's being fashionable also costs. Right, yeah. Right. So the value that I put on it is not so much of money, although I want to, you know, put my ties in the limit to where they're not cheap. Yeah. But the backstory I have is that percentage of the funds from the bow ties goes back to the community. Yeah.
So I don't want to be charging $10 for the bow tie.
Yeah, because then you also got to make your material back and then donate and everything.
Yeah. So I'm like, come on, you guys, over with me. And then I would always get this saying, you know, can I get a discount? So I'm like, you know, hey. So I tell people my backstory, and then they say, oh, you know, they see the pricing of the bow tie. I said, when you go to dealers or Macy's, you don't ask for a discount.
No,
you go for sales
there.
that they have, either for Easter, Christmas, or Thanksgiving. But
and so do you have like sales for your things like for like different seasons and stuff? Yeah.
So the normal price, like I said, for the bow tie for the toddlers $15, youth $25, and the adults $35. So whenever I do a pop-up shop, I do bow ties $15. All bow ties $15, and the t-shirts are $20. When online, they're like a little bit more.
Yeah.
So you know, that's the discount that I have. But you still have that one person.
Yeah. That one person that asks for it. What's kind of like your dream project? Or before I get to that one, I also kind of wanted to ask you, because you mentioned that a lot of people, like, you tell them your backstory and like they kind of see what you went through. Right. What's also been kind of like critical points that you hit that like you had to go through and you almost gave up or you almost quit, but like, you know, or a critical point that taught you a lesson, but you're glad you kind of did it. Like maybe a sacrifice, something that you do in order to keep the bow tie business going and stuff.
Right. So what gets me is sometimes I'm like, man, I know that there's a lot of people out here who can be impacted by what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But where are they?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like that, you know. I had one person, you know, even on our Instagram, we have 11,000 people. Yeah. You know, I don't buy flyers. I don't buy followers. So what I did was I, you know, as we should do, go see other people's websites. You like, share.
You build a relationship.
Yes. And so that's how our Instagram has grown. But I can't make, you know, people interact. So I'm looking to build a tribe. And sometimes the tribe is just like one or two people. Yeah. Those two faithful people that no matter how many times you put a post, they always liking, talking, commenting, sharing. Yeah. I'm not out. You know, it was never that way in the beginning to have like 10,000. Because when I first started, I was like, man. Now I'm like, I don't care. Like, I just want people to see what we're doing.
The quality.
Quality of it. You know, now there are people who come to your page. Yeah. They may not like what you're doing, like give you a like. Yeah. But they watching. You can see how many people compare your story versus your post. Mm-hmm. You may have 100 people that see your story. They watch what you're doing, but they may not like what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, I got 100 people that know what we're doing. I don't care if they if they give us a lot of likes.
Like a lot of people like they that's what I kind of do with like my other thing that I do is like a lot of people go for views, you know, and stuff like that rather than liking and stuff, because you know people are watching. That's why reels on Instagram have become a big thing. I've seen a lot of artists, you know, like I've always told a lot of artists, I'm like, hey, go on your page or go, like put your painting on there, you know, your process of it, because views get you a lot more attention and stuff, and you know people are going to be more likely to see you do the process of it and then buy your painting after because they saw your process of it. But if you're just going to throw it out there and stuff and just throw it out there without explaining the process of how you did it and you know what's behind it, no one's going to really buy it. And also kind of like how you mentioned like in the before that was that like, you know, with even just two people, you know, like your two faithful people, that's how everything starts. You know, because they, you know, they're the ones helping you out, and like you said before, it's like just the word of mouth and stuff, you know, and people see that, they see the quality and they tell their friends about the quality. And it's all about like building your relationships, and I completely agree with that.
Yes, sir. And also I love photography, and I was like, well, beginning stages, even now, I was like, since I know photography, I know that look, the angle, I'm gonna take my own pictures. Now, occasionally I'll hire a photographer, or I'll invite someone if something's going on, and I'll say, hey, you can come be part of it, whether I pay you or if you want to volunteer your time to like add to your portfolio. Then you know there'll be more pictures for you to add to your portfolio, because when I first started, I took like a few pictures, and I know that people want to see what your product looked like, and they want a story. So I would like take a picture and then do the caption of the story of this bow tie or this event, and that's what people enjoy seeing. They want to know they want to know where their money is going. If I say a percentage of what they're buying is going to go to the community, then I need to have them pictures.
Yeah, you need to market it really well and everything.
Have those pictures of this is where your money is going. It's helping this boy, this young girl, this community.
Yeah, I'm
not storing it up. This person is being helped. That person is being helped, and that's what we're all about. We're unique. I believe what separates us from any other. I don't know if there's anybody else here in El Paso that's making bow ties.
I haven't seen it.
Or I don't care, where you're from, but I don't know if there's anybody else. You let me know. But I know this is what we're doing. Yeah. What sets us aside from any other bow tie company is that we are giving back to the community. Right. I started to build a relationship with my son, and I always say our business is different than any other business. Right. Just like the fingerprint on my hand.
Like your DNA is different from
DNA is different. Yeah. That's how different we are. Mm-hmm. We're not trying to compare and compete with the other person, because you can be making bow ties and we're in the same city. Yeah. And I get more business than you, or you get more business than me. It just depends on who you appealing to.
Right. And so that's kind of like another thing, is like, how important do you think collaboration is? Let's say there is somebody else making another bow tie.
Collaboration is life.
Like, how would you do that? Or like explain like how important that you think it is collaborating with people.
So collaborating with people. Some people think collaboration means I'm gonna get paid. Right. But collaboration doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna get paid with physical money.
It's co-branding.
You get yes. I would say influence does me better than actually having money. Right. Because if you don't have influence, you got money, then you probably ain't gonna go anywhere. Yeah. But if you have money and influence working together, then you can make waves. Right. But I know that I have favor. I know that I have influence. Yeah. And I met some cool guys like yourself that have influence and know people, because you never know who knows who.
Exactly.
And so I'll try to always be on my best behavior.
Yeah. No, and I tell people a lot of too. I'm like, hey, your network is your net worth in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know who's watching. I don't try to be like anybody else. Mm-hmm. Even if I don't care if I was white, if I was Mexican, if I was I would be myself. Right. I would. Because if you try to be somebody else, that's hard work. Yeah. Being yourself is easy, but I would say for some entrepreneurs, you may be afraid. You may not know what's the next step to get to where you need to go. Right. Collaboration for me, I had to weed out people who don't necessarily get back with you when you send them a DM and you ask them a question, especially if they're doing the same thing you're doing, because they feel intimidated that you're trying to take over their business. Yeah. I've just weeded out the little small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff.
It's about the patience of it too. Yeah. Like that's another thing. It's like patience is very important, especially as an artist. You're not gonna sell your first painting you make and stuff. It's just keep making it and all that. And so, like, kind of like, what's your advice on, like, on staying patient and, like, making sure that, quality over quantity type of thing? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you work about that yourself? Like, how do you stay patient?
Well, like I said, when I made my first bow tie, it wasn't like the hook and slides, little metal pieces, and it was Velcro. Yeah. And I've seen some adult bow ties that had Velcro on it, but I wanted mine. I was like, I want mine to look like the big guys, like Dillard's and Macy's, So that's the standard that I had as far as quality.
You got to dream big on it.
Macy's, because I know Macy's is a big company, JCPenney's, Dillard's. So that's the standard that I had. But then I say I also want my bow ties to be unique. Like the relationship that I'm building with my son. So I have a backstory to it and involve my son in it. Because at first he didn't want to wear bow ties. Yeah, now is he wearing them every day now? He wanted to wear them, last year when he was in school, or the year before last, he wanted to wear a bow tie every day of the week. Wow. And I was like, okay, just wear it on Friday. Yeah,
just on Friday.
Just on Friday. But I was.
That's a good thing though, because the influence of it.
Yeah, I was just thinking where he's come from, and he was like, I want to wear one every day, and I was like, just wear one on Friday. He was like, oh, okay. But he just, because in his mind, he's like, this is my brand. Zion, this name after me. Zion Bow Ties. Me and my daddy,
Yeah.
that was his mindset. So I brought him a little sewing machine.
Yeah.
And so I gotta get him more into practicing sewing.
Yeah.
But lately, since I've been having the orders and everything, sometimes I have to do an order real quick.
Yeah.
I say, hey, we'll have our time to where I'm
like,
teaching
hey,
you.
get out the way.
Yeah. He's like, but you said, you was gonna show me this. And I need to do that, just set time aside to have with him.
To playing catch with your dad.
Right. Yeah.
And so kind of also, so you're kind of involving your son into like the artist side of it, and all that. How would you teach him kind of like the business side of it, especially as an artist, like, because being an entrepreneur, like a business and, different types of businesses is different from like an entrepreneur and being an artist entrepreneur. Right. So like, how would you teach him that to be like an artist entrepreneur and stuff?
So I've all my kids, I try to encourage all my kids to be creative and be an entrepreneur. I say, even if you working at McDonald's, Burger King, or JC, there's nothing wrong with that. But I because I know who they are and I know the potential that they have, I'm always pushing them to like do something greater, do something better. One time my daughter told me, she was like, well, what if I don't want to do anything better?
Yeah.
I was like, well, you got to want to, you can't just be the same. I said, imagine if you was just 11 years old the whole time you living.
Yeah.
You would want to be older because you want to get to adulthood. You know?
That's true.
And she was like, okay. But, so I've taught him business, as far as business. So he's working on these, so he has this knitting he does with yarn, and it's just like circular, yarn. I forget how he does it, but he was like, well, it could be a bracelet, Dad, And so I was like, well,
like the creative things he comes out of making something, Yeah.
So what the advice I gave him, when I told him this, he didn't take it well. I was like, well, Zion, sometimes when you're making things, you try to think what people would want to buy.
He told you that?
No, I told him that.
Okay.
I told him that what people would want to buy.
Yeah.
Now you making this is creative. Now I didn't shoot him down like, oh, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I was like, it's nice. He said it would be a bracelet. Over time it would get frayed, the yarn.
Right.
So I was like, well, maybe if you would do like a scarf or like a hat or something that people would probably want to buy, because like I said, when I was making the bow ties, and my favorite color is red, I didn't want to make everything red had to be in it, because it's my favorite color.
Yeah.
I had to do something that was going to be appeasing to people who would want to buy.
Because again, you're a business, you're trying to sell it, you're trying to sell what people want.
And so, but he's always, being creative. Like he do like the you call them bean bracelets, like the little
those little
beads.
Yeah.
So he was making those, because at the time where he couldn't sew, and he, I told him I had to like supervise you to sew, and so I was like, okay, make some bracelets.
Yeah.
And he would make them. He would get like his wrist size, my wrist size, and like little baby's wrist size.
Right.
And he would make those. So I've sold some of those at a pop-up shop. Pop-up, market like downtown, the farmer's market. But as far as the yarn, I was like, okay, you can do those. Most of the time he put them on our dog. We have a Yorkie.
Yeah.
He put them on the neck of our dog. But as far as business, I always tell him, you can make money. You not only just make money, but make money.
Enjoy doing what you're doing.
Enjoy doing what you're doing, and invest that money.
Yeah.
Not just say, well, I just made a lot of money, and where we gonna go from here? But do like investments with your money. But I'm always, and sometimes in my house with my kids, they're like, Dad, we don't want to hear anymore about that.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing is that is like an artist is always trying to find kind of like a way where they can collaborate with somebody, but still profit ties out of it. Because like I know we mentioned that when you're collaborating with somebody, it's not always about making the money about it. But sometimes there gets a point when you're also trying to make a living out of it. Especially as an artist, it's hard to make a living as an artist. So it's like, how do you go about that? Like, how do you go about a partnership with another artist or wherever it is, but still kind of make it to where it's profitable for both of you?
Well, like I said, you never know who knows who.
Yeah.
So I may know somebody that you don't have a relationship with, and that person can, you know, because what I like doing is connect with people.
Yeah.
So, you know, because that really got me, you know, when I first started, I was like, man, you know, how can I approach this person, you know, because I love talking to people.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I see, you know, this friend of mine or somebody I just met, and then this other person over here who don't know one another. So with me joining people together in business and introducing, you know, them to one another, I profit from that. Not sometimes financially, but sometimes it's just being in the room with
those type
that
of people.
that you know that company. So being in the room with people who have influence now. So a lot of times we don't realize that we have influence ourselves, and we try to be in a room like with the president or somebody. But there are people that are looking at us, and they say, "Oh man, I want to be, you know, like him or like do what he's doing. He's like he's making moves."
Yeah.
Now there are some times where there's no moves being made.
Yeah.
But you got to keep it moving.
Yeah.
And I've heard people say, "Well, fake it till you make it." And to a certain extent, that's happened.
Yeah.
But I don't like fake it till I make it. I just, you know, do what I do.
Right.
If to the audience it look like we making waves, then. But
no,
but I don't. But I don't.
process, yeah.
But I don't like. I don't get on and you know make a post and be like.
No, you keep
some,
moving.
You know,
yeah.
Woe is me. You know, even if woe is me is going on, I'm like, hey, you know, I had a bad day, whatever, but hey, I'm gonna keep on moving.
Yeah.
I don't get on there and do a pity party, do like a video of, you know, I mean, do a video of me crying because
no, that's not gonna do you any good.
It may be, you know, one of me crying and just getting out, and then just say, hey, from this day forward, I'm not gonna let that get me down, blah blah blah. You know, but it's not like to create a pity party, but actually a safe place to de-stress.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes we're like stressed out because nobody liked us, or you know, we didn't get this response that we thought we was gonna get.
Yeah.
And but it all goes back to knowing who you are as a person, knowing that no matter what other people say, you are the king or the queen that you are created to be, and there can be another. Even twins are different.
Yeah.
You know, triplets, they all different. They may look the same, but they're all different.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I feel. You know, we're all about helping people out, and you know that's where our business is. Collaboration. You know, I don't want to discount a person. Like so up front, if someone asked to collaborate with me, and so I would ask the question, you know, I would talk about finance because I don't want to lead the person the wrong way. Yeah. There's sometimes when I say, well, can I collaborate? And then they say, hey, you know, what can we do? And so in my mind, it comes the thought of money, like, you know, but I make sure that I'm prepared to pay for something, and not just assume that it's gonna be free. That's what I've done. Yeah. And then there's sometimes where I didn't have the money. I just let the person know. I don't. Yeah. I don't. You know, is this gonna be you know finances or how are we gonna go about doing this? You know, and if money is brought up, then I'll just don't let them know up front. Okay,
it's not the right time for me financially.
You know, I'm not really prepared to go forward financially with this, but what can we do? Right. You know?
Like besides that, no, and I agree with that. And I like how like some of the key points that you touched was kind of being patient with it as well. It's like it's like you know you make something and it's not gonna go about how you go about it, but like you don't really post anything about like you know how it impacted your failures and all that. It's more about like you know just keep going with it. You know, it's like okay, one thing after another. If this doesn't work, then let's go with this and let's try this out. And so that's kind of what I like about like how your son is just like, hey, well maybe this worked and all that. because he's trying to find different things of like different solutions he can make as far as like maybe you might not like this, but this person will. I might not like wearing bow ties, but somebody might like wearing hats and stuff, or something like that.
Right.
And so it's just about like I kind of like how he mentioned that it's not about what you like as an artist. Like for example, you mentioned a lot of red. It's about what does the market want? What is it like your customers want?
Right.
And so I kind of like how you just put it into like a way where it's like. It's kind of just like expressing your creativity, but also, just having fun with it and experimenting different things.
Right.
And I feel like that's also the key experiment things. A lot of people are trying to stay with one thing, and then, trying one different thing could open up a lot of different doors for you, just switching one thing up. Maybe it's like, this isn't selling as much, but if I add this, now it's like, okay, now I get a lot of different opportunities with different other people.
Yeah. So I've done that before. That's another avenue that I want to go down, but I want to, take care of some debts because I've like say I pay for some t-shirts. I got a lot of t-shirts I need to sell. And use that money for the next venture. Because there's another thing that I want to do that I know will sell. Another piece of art that I haven't seen here. I haven't seen it really done here in El Paso, and that's what I want to do. Right. For my next venture, but I was like, no, I need to sell these t-shirts and
take it a process at a time, a step at a time.
Save some money and get it done. Because I know it's gonna be our next venture.
Yeah, and a lot of people have to do that too. They just got to take it step by step. How important do you think it is investing into like your creative business or your business as a whole? How important do you think it is to invest in it? A lot of people think that maybe I don't have to put in a lot of money into it. Maybe I can just make it happen. But sometimes, like you do need to put money in. How important do you think that is to just invest in your business?
Well, it's very important to write a plan out, a business plan, and don't lie to yourself. Have because the one thing with I say entrepreneur, a person who has like a visionary, is that we dreaming it. We we can feel it. We can taste it. We just know it's gonna happen. I think we can touch it. But writing it down causes you to create a blueprint for where you want to go. If you don't write down things, even if you drive in the car, have like portable, like on your phone, I guess, record something. If you can't write it down, or do like the little voice where you can actually write or speak into your mic, whatever. And then just give yourself a time frame. I say within a year, 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years, maybe 3 years, the longest, to start this, because you never want to start something that I would say can't finish, or start it to where it's like, okay, this is opening day, and then you can really push forward and get the support or get the response that you want. But also in preparation, get like a support group.
Like a little test audience or something.
If your mom is still here, still alive, then she'll be the one like, oh baby. Sometimes she won't. Sometimes she'll just tell you, or your dad, yeah, son, you can do it, or yeah, daughter, you can do it. And they're like, oh no, it's another one of those, another one of those plans. But then also get somebody who's not your friend, who they may not even see you again. And they tell you the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And you're like, wow, okay, I need to.
It puts you into reality of it.
I need to, because they could be like your first potential customer other than your family. And, there's some customers when I was down at the farmer's market, they had certain things to say about, the bow ties. I remember this one time I was making bow ties for men, and I had started, making like hair bows for girls, some toddler bow ties. And so there was this one lady, she came down, she was like, well, why do you have, bow ties for girls? Because you have like the father and the daughter. And I was like, oh, okay, yes, ma'am. We will have, some bow ties for young ladies coming out. But she was very adamant about that. Now, she had 2 boys. She didn't have the girls, but she just like, hey, why don't you think about that? And so I didn't take offense. I just said,
Constructive criticism.
I just said, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I just say, yes, ma'am. We will have those on the next time that we set up here.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I was like, okay,
Right.
you know, I'm not afraid to do it, but let's do that.
Yeah. Because a lot of people, they take that judgment as like just like judgment, and then they take it the wrong way and stuff. But I feel like constructive criticism, when people telling you, like putting you into reality of it, and being like, hey, you know, this won't work and all that because of this and that, and like, oh well, no, you're wrong, you know, I'm not wrong. But no, sometimes like, oh, maybe you're right, and like I said, that one little change can change everything, you know. Yeah. And so, well, go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
So it didn't take away from my story, because I know why I originally started Zion's Bow Ties. Yeah. But making bow ties for young girls, it could cause a ripple effect to where guys who just have, you know, a daughter, you know, father-daughter relationships, and they don't have son, like their wife got all girls, you know, they got all girls, and, you know, they got like, man, the next one's gonna be a boy, you know. Yeah. But he may not ever have a boy. Yeah. But at least he can build a relationship with his daughter. He's wearing a bow tie or a tie, something that's, you know, fashionable with her. Yes, and building relationships. So it didn't take away from my story of building relationships between father-son, father-daughter, and strengthening that gap between them. You know, because he could be like, you know, well, when I was growing up, I didn't have a good relationship with my dad, but I want my daughter to have a good relationship with me, you know. But I took it as it was, and I went from there.
And if it wasn't bow ties, like, what else would you be doing? If it wasn't apparel or bow ties, like, what else would you do?
I would be drawing more.
You'd be drawing?
I would be drawing more, painting more. I love woodwork, you know, painting. If El Paso, like, all the neighborhoods had grass in them because it was black.
You know, it's crazy. The mountains are getting grass. You know, with all the rain, it's like it's crazy to see that.
If there was like a abundance of yards, I would be continuing my lawn service that I had in Columbia, Texas. I mean, I would be doing something. That would be, you know, I would probably still be. I would probably be sewing, but then
you know, but you're also an artist,
right? Yeah, I would be doing. I would be cleaning. Now, I love cleaning. Now, I'm not like a fanatic about cleaning, but I would be doing something. I started a cleaning business, something. Yeah. You know, that's what I would do.
You're not one to sit down and just be like, oh, what does the world gotta give? You know? Yeah.
But if you're an entrepreneur like I am and you have kids, the advice I would give is, if you see the potential that your kids have, don't pressure them. Don't put them to the point where it's like they're doing what you want them to do. Yeah. You know, give a suggestion, coach it, you know, kind of like plant a seed, you know, hey, maybe you can do this, you know. And then if they say no, then just, you know,
don't force it on them.
Step back. Yeah. And then later on, they may come back and say, because I would do that to my oldest, and not force, but I would like give her suggestions. Say, for instance, you know, she was coming of age. She's 21 now. She was coming of age. And I was like, you know, they don't think, my two girls sometimes think that because I'm their dad that I understand fashion and women and dressing and stuff. So they're like, well, I'm going to ask mom, you know, see what mom says about this, like lipstick. And so I mentioned to my oldest daughter about wearing some, you know, get some eyelash, you know, extensions or, you know, the eyelashes that they, you know, put on. And so she was like, no. And so it was like a few years after that, she started wearing the eyelashes, you know. And I was like, come on.
Yeah. Y'all was right, yeah. And how do you, like, I also want to get, like, I have a lot of key kind of things that I want to touch with you. It's like, how important do you think it is for a parent to let their child kind of decide what they want to do with their life? You know, you being a business person, entrepreneur, you kind of want them to not fall on the same path, but, you know, do something successful with their life. But, like, maybe it's something that they don't want to do that you want them to do. So it's like, what do you think about, like, you know, letting them, like, parents kind of forcing their children into, like, doing what they want to do, or also, like, you know, if your child wants to be like a YouTube star, or, you know, they want to be, you know, the world's greatest painter and all that. Right. Like, how would you advise parents to go about that route even if they don't agree with it?
So that's a big question, man. So, and I always try not to do with my kids. You know, when I was growing up, now I give them a story, but I don't want it to seem like I'm old man somebody that's been on the face of the earth before time.
Because there's parents like that. There's parents who are like their kid wants to be like a great artist, the next thing like that. But they're like, no, you're gonna be a lawyer, a police officer. So like, how do you go about like, well, how would you change that if you were in that position? Like, what would you do?
Yeah. So I don't want my kids to think that I've been on the earth since God or some entity or whatever. Yeah. I'm the great somebody. So I would say this. When I was growing up, I was told what I was going to do. I was by my dad, or if we didn't do it was like either it's my way or you hit the road. It was like that in my house. So in these times with my kids, when it comes to like, say for instance, punishment. Yeah. If they do something wrong, I say, hey, what you do, don't be afraid to talk to me, Yeah. Even if they knew they're going to get away.
Like, I'm not going to hit you.
So I was like, what do you think your punishment should be? Mm-hmm. And they say, well, they try to be a little light with themselves. So I was like, okay, we'll do that, and then we'll do this too, because that's a little light punishment. Yeah. Try to like, get corrected for the crime or whatever.
So you're teaching them like decision and also how to be responsible and take action. And
so when it comes to if they want, say you gave an example of being like a YouTuber or they want to do like this.
Like be an artist or a photographer. Because there's a lot of that. There's a lot of photographers who like they want to do it as a hobby or like a living and stuff like that, and then people are like, no, that's just a hobby. That's what I got told. And so like how do you go about that?
So what I do is I put myself in my kids' shoes. Mm-hmm. Like, and I do a lot of comparison with how I grew up. Right. The ridicule I got. Like, for instance, my aunt taught me how to sew. Right. She sparked the interest in photography for me. Mm-hmm. And so it's being used now. Now, I didn't realize that her husband, my uncle, was telling her, like, why you got that boy sewing? Yeah. So listen. So my mom told me, see, both my aunt and my uncle, they're deceased now. So, like, we got rights to talk about them because they, dead. But I know now what I didn't know then. Yeah. My mom, she was like, your Uncle Buck was telling your Aunt Louise that, why you got that boy in there sewing? Yeah. He don't need to be doing that. And so, like, and then you got to understand the era that he was from, old school, how he was brought up. And maybe it was like the guys go to work and, the women sewing and stuff like that. But had I known then what I know now, I don't think I would have been sewing. Because I really respected my uncle, and like with my dad also, I obey him out of respect, not because I particularly like what he did or like what my uncles did or anybody in higher position,
like the life lessons he kind of gave you in a way or whatever.
Yeah, it's just like I'm respecting you because you're older than me. You're my elder, you're my uncle, you're my dad, you're my dad's friend. I'm respecting you in that aspect. Right. But I'm a kid, so I'm gonna do what you say because you're an adult. But I don't do that to my kids. Right. Like my oldest, she's an artist. I mean, she does some good work. Like, I'm like, man. Yeah. And so she wasn't doing, painting or anything. And my wife was like, I told her, like, and she hate hearing that. Like, it's kind of like, I told you so. But we know what they have, the potential they have. Yeah. So what she's doing now, she's selling her art now. Mm-hmm. Although she has a job, but she's also selling her art to friends and people that we don't know. She meet them here locally or ship her artwork to them. And but I wasn't critical on her. I didn't say, you're an artist and you can do this and no. I would encourage her. Positive side. I would encourage her, like, I know you're an artist and I know you can do it, Zoe. Go. You can do it. But it was like in her time. Yeah. I knew she had the capability to do it, but it's like in her time, it was in her own self. Just like the eyelashes, I was like, hey, have you thought about doing that? Yeah. And she was like, no, I don't want to do that. And then now she's doing it, because she wants to do it. Right. But it's just the level that she's at. A lot of times we force things on people, and they're not ready. They're not ready mentally. They're not ready physically. They don't want to deal with the pressure that it takes. We got like artists or people who sing. Mm-hmm. They probably are comfortable before crowds, but it's just their timing. And
Right.
then with the parent putting pressure on the kids, it's like, okay, I am trying, Mom. I am trying, Dad. But you put more pressure on me.
Right.
Let me do this when I'm ready to do this. But then also you have parents who talk down on their kids, saying that they can't do it.
Yeah.
See, that's a different story. Both has pressure.
Right.
If the parents see what their kids can do, and they're like, "Oh, you can do it. Come on, you can do it. You can do it." But then you got the parent that say, "You ain't gonna do that."
Yeah.
Like, I ain't doing it, and you're not gonna do it.
Yeah.
So you need to stop doing it. You're not gonna get any money for it. Who are they to say?
Yeah, and then I feel like you're just building like an unhealthy relationship with your son for the future. You know? Yeah.
Who am I to say what my daughter can't do? I mean, I know what she and then there was
It's
one
like
time.
you said, everyone's DNA is different.
Yeah. There was one time she told me, she was like, "Well, Dad, other than chores in the house, I'm gonna do the chores because it's a chore. But as far as talent and gifts and talents, if you have me to force me to do something, she was like, I'm gonna leave home. Like, I'm getting older, I'm gonna leave home, so I'm gonna do what I want to do. Like, I'm doing what I want to do now, but even more so when I leave the house." And I was like, I just kind of, because she was like kind of being real. That was a real moment. And I was like, she does have a point. But there ain't nothing I'm forcing her to do. I'm giving her suggestions. And she was like, "Well, will you be upset if I don't do those things that you are suggesting for me to do?" And then I was like, I would be somewhat upset if you're just being flat out lazy.
Yeah, that's true.
But not doing what I'm suggesting for you to do. I wouldn't be upset for that. I'd be like, okay, well, we'll try the next thing,
Yeah.
I'm that person. I'm that, okay, what about this? I told her I want her to have as many options as possible. Not, well, you're just going to do this one thing and that's it. No, they already know I'm going to continue to push them.
Yeah.
But I know the limits.
Yeah.
If they feel like pressure, because they've said, I feel this pressure, like, you pressure me to do this. And then I know
that just builds unhealthy habits.
Then I know when to step back. Yeah. And then what I do is I just, a lot of times I just say, what's going on?
Yeah.
That's the question that they need. And then I shut up and let them talk.
Let them decide.
Yeah. And what I hear, because with my 11-year-old, when I was doing Bow Ties with Zion, they was like, Zion is your favorite because you're always with him, and you go to these fashion shows and true story. Okay, so I told my youngest daughter, so I'll start doing hair bows with you. So I did a few hair bows, but it wasn't like the momentum I had with Zion's Bow Ties.
Right.
And so now we're at a crossroad where I told Zakai, I was like, because I see that she like art, she like painting, and so I was like, hey, I will buy you anything you need to start, and then I was gonna say business, and I was like, to start your passion, your talent, your dream, because she was like, what if I don't want to sell it? And I was like, well, you don't have to, but if you decide to, then that's the route that you can go and make, money,
that's a good thing to do.
Yourself.
That's a good habit. Yeah.
And so she was like, okay, and so the other day she was like, I asked her, I was like, okay, you got your list? You made a list. So she made a list. I was like, okay. And I was joking with her. I was like, okay, hey, don't make it too big. I don't know. How much she was like.
Yeah.
She said make the list. So she had about 6 things on there. Yeah. Canvas, paint. She wants some colored pencils. So I know that's her passion.
Right.
She like painting. And I told her whatever supplies you need, I'm gonna buy it for you.
Right.
She was like, cool. But she was like, what if I don't want to sell it? I mean, what if I don't want to sell it and just keep it to myself? And, that's what I told my oldest. I was like, if you sell it, then an image will be in your mind, or you take a picture of it. How artists do, take a picture, and you sell the picture of it, not the original. She was like, still.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get you. So kind of to wrap up, we're running a little bit of time. If what you know now, like, kind of, I don't know how to word it, like, what do you wish you knew now that you wish you would have known when you first got started? Like, doing this whole bow tie and becoming an artist entrepreneur.
I would say knowing people, like knowing the people that I know now, would probably be something that I wish I had known, or like the process of like, you know, taxes, you know, making it easier, you know, the communication and influence, you know. But I believe everything happens for a reason.
Right.
So now I have the opportunity to teach somebody else, to show somebody else the ropes.
Right.
You know, I was never, you know, never been, you know, or was I would say stingy.
Right.
As for sharing information, I just wish that more of that was given to me, you know, so where I would, but.
So like an outlet of where to find this information.
Right. Yeah. But I feel like through me searching and being the person I am, like I'll search it. You know, I'll either Google it, I'll ask questions, or I'll just say, hey, you know, or I'll see, I'll observe. You know, okay, that's how they did that, and then I would always observe pages, like Instagram pages, Facebook pages, not stalking anybody.
Do your research.
You know, just not stalking, but you know, like, hey, this how you did that? Okay. I wouldn't send like DMs. I would just like, you know, okay, that's how they did that. That's how they did that. Okay.
How can I implement it?
Yeah. And implement it with our company.
And last question is like, what piece of advice would you give to any artist, anybody who wants to do their art as a business? Your main advice.
Be patient.
Be patient.
Be patient. Be patient, because if you're patient and you're not rushing the process, enjoy the process. Be patient and enjoy the process.
Right.
Because you never know who your work will be presented to. You never know. I mean,
like you said, like you never know who's gonna run across it and stuff.
Yeah. If it happened for the person that you see now that's a millionaire, it can happen to you.
Right. Okay. Well, hey guys, it's gonna wrap up this first episode of the second season. It's our first one in person. Zion, I just want to ask you, you know, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Where can people find you? Where can people even go and purchase your bow ties, or you know, where can they meet you and stuff?
Okay, so we have Instagram at Zions_bow_ties, and Facebook at Zions Bow Ties, and you can find us online at zionsbowties.com.
Awesome, Zion.
Yes.
Well, you guys heard it here. We're here at Casa Ortiz, here in Carolina's. Amazing art. This is one of her paintings, by the way. I've always loved her paintings. It's very trippy sometimes, you know.
Yes.
And so, you know, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Zion, so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.